I am Brandon Fink. I am the father of Khaleesi Fink, the beautiful 5-year-old girl who lost her life whenever the vehicle she was in was struck by the one being driven by U.S. Wisconsin Senator Janet Bewley. Apologies if I get emotional. This has all been very hard to read and see, and it's especially hard to try to talk about. I'm still trying to get used to existing without my daughter, let alone have to stand up and do all this. There's a lot more to this than what I'll say and what we go over in this statement, so if you'd please check out my socials. I've been just recently started putting stuff on there about this, and please follow me going forward, show me some support, and hopefully if we all scream loud enough, we can get some justice for Khaleesi. We're going to go over DA David Meany's statement today. This whole thing has just felt horribly one-sided since the beginning, and this report just concretes that. It just shows it. Just read it. The last page or so shows again and again, like, it is our burden to prove that she could be guilty for this stuff, and then the whole report is them literally trying to do the opposite and prove not guilty. It's not like it's bad homework. Like, they completely missed the point of the assignment. Reading this just really shows how much they have had her back, and it shows that my poor little girl never had a chance at justice. Again, this is just horribly painful to have to sit here and, try and do. So the copy I have, this is the copy that was sent to me from my lawyers. It came out before the official statement. So, if the story's changed since then, which I wouldn't be too surprised. Witness AB says that they saw Callie's mom, Alyssa, fly past them, and they even commented to their child how they hoped to see her get busted. What about the multiple witnesses that were saying the exact opposite of this, like stuff about Bewley? There was shop owners and whatnot at the scene that wanted to see charges brought on her, just based on the way she was acting at the scene. She got out of her car and was instantly being buddy-buddy with cops and firemen and downplaying this situation to everybody like it was just a little accident, much more concerned with her public image than the lives that she had just destroyed. None of that made it into this report. And the way that the police have handled this from the very beginning, I doubt that any of these witnesses even made it into the packet. Anything that painted Janet in a negative light, anything that anybody had to say, was completely left out of the investigation. There's no evidence to show that she was on a hands-free device. Is there any evidence showing that she was on a hands-free device? Anything other than just her word? And also, this phone call, it wasn't a mindless, "Hey, hon, can you pick up some milk?" Oh, sure. It was an interview. Especially whenever you're that concerned with your public image, you have to think and concentrate on your answers for an interview. It's distracting. Of course, Callie's mom's speed is cited over and over again, and that's something that I fully believed in the beginning. But as this has went on, the way that the cops have handled all this, and that everything has been handled in Bewley's favor, I have a hard time believing it now. Those cops are the ones that checked the computers, that got the information and speeds and all that. And they chose to release that day after it came out that I announced a civil suit, even though the whole packet wasn't together and they shouldn't have been releasing any information yet. They let that slip, and then they turned around and they claimed it was an accident. And first of all, how do you accidentally send that out to multiple people and all that? And secondly, whenever I talked to the DA, it was very clear that it was not by accident. He was, stumbling over his words, look, that wasn't right, that's not they shouldn't have did. I can't apologize for them, but I'm sorry. Well, and then on top of all that, I've heard both ways. Again, I'm not sure about this stuff, but I've heard both ways as to whether those car computers can be tampered with and whether they're even reliable to begin with. it says that she was on her way to a medical appointment, but it chooses to leave out that that was with the doctor that performed her cataract surgery the day before, and that this is the appointment that you go to make sure everything went okay to get cleared to drive. And now we can see, like, look how exact they are with Callie's mom's toxicology. I mean, it's this Delta 8 whatever, like, you know, like they go and name the exact thing, even though it's something that I believe you can pick up from about any gas station nowadays, and it stays in your system long after the effects wear off. Yeah. But Janet simply says that there wasn't any ethanol or anything in her system that could be proven to impair judgment. Well, does that mean that there's something in there that could questionably impair judgment? Saying this in general, you know, implies that there's something in her system, and that's exactly what I was told over the phone. But yeah, it was simply that there was something, but, you know, don't worry about exactly what it is. You know, it's surgery meds is what I was told. There's surgery meds. And, you know, if it was an antibiotic, then why not say that? I mean, you meticulously named the, you know, number of delta that Alyssa's pen was. You could have just said, oh, there was a vape pen in the car. But no, you named that meticulously. And yet this Bewley's toxicology is just straight up being admitted that there was something in it, but being brushed over. This also seems to be quite the coincidence that her medical and toxicology was the last things that the DA's office needed to make this decision back in October or November, whenever I spoke to them, and it was coming any minute to expect a charging decision in just a week or two. Then all of a sudden, it takes almost a quarter of a year for them to get these things. 6 months after the accident happened for them to supposedly, you know, receive these last documents. So, you know, what was being done with them? Why did none of this come out till right after Janet Bewley retired, happily retired, and the American people are paying for her wealthy retirement? But yeah, now that she's retired, all this is out and all that, but they're still just brushing over everything. They brushed right over that medical record. But yeah, again, I find it coincidental that on the phone with the DA in October and November, like I mentioned, whenever they said, oh, it'd be a week and a half or two, I was like, oh, good. I really feel like something should happen before she just gets to happily retire and the American people have to pay for her wealthy retirement. And lo and behold, after I said that, again, took another quarter of the year, 6 months after the accident for them to get those two things. And again, like, where were those this whole time? That information also would have been where any restrictions should have been signed at as well. I really do not understand the system. I get that more and more every day. But I just don't understand why, when this happened and she was busy trying to maintain her public image and said that she was on the way to a doctor to get checked up for a cataract surgery that she had the day before, and it was obvious everyone gets a driving restriction. It often has its own transportation agreement section and often specifically states that you have to have transportation to that checkup the next day, the very drive she admittedly was on. But yes, whenever this happened, why couldn't somebody have went and secured that file right there and then to see if she shouldn't have spent the night in jail or not? And if that paper wasn't there, then why wasn't the doctor consulted to find out why she was excluded from this restriction whenever everybody else clearly and obviously receives one? I also hear after cataract surgery you're supposed to wear an eye patch for at least 24 hours or whenever otherwise said by a doctor. You know, never heard anything about that either. This information took from July to January, a half a year, months after I was told there would be a decision, till right after she retires, for this all to supposedly finally get to the DA. And now again, it's all being brushed over. I don't understand why this clearly critical information wasn't consulted right then at the time of the accident. But that's what we get now, is that the doctor didn't give any restrictions. No answers as to why. And whenever I pointed this out to the DA and I asked about the paperwork, He had no clue and would have to look into it because he just interviewed the doctor, which I'm sure that was formal and recorded like it probably should have been. And the doctor said, nah, I didn't give her any. So what? Did he just never look at the packet? The medical packet? Because he interviewed the doctor? He had no clue. Then, instead of being a couple days till the decision was out, it's been 2 weeks. You know, I was hopeful that maybe I was going to get some kind of answer. But no, it's still the same decision after I threw multiple flags, with no answers to anything. Still just, she wasn't given any. So, no evidence she wasn't on a hands-free device. Well, is there any showing that she was? No evidence of distraction, even though on an interview. Where's the proof doing an interview isn't distracting? No evidence that she was on any restriction, even though it's obvious everyone gets one, and she was on the way to the appointment to get cleared. No evidence of impairment or impairment to judgment, even though there was a discrepancy with her knowing exactly where they hit even. No evidence of impairment or impairment of judgment, even though something popped up in her toxicology that is just being brushed over after going into the victims in detail. Am I the only one that feels like we are being shown a list of evidence here and just being told it's not? This whole report is clearly the exact opposite of what it should be in so many ways. Please read it. It's obvious that this is not someone trying to prove beyond reasonable doubt that Bewley could be brought up on charges. They don't even try to hide that with a little bit of objectiveness. I'd also like to show this article here that was in a local paper written by a guy from over in the area where all this is happening. And yeah, it just really amuses me because it's literally like, now that I saw this report, I feel like I read a prophecy that just completely could have told me everything that was going to happen. It specifically states that all Bewley would care about is her public image. It talks about how corrupt the system is in Ashland, where this all took place, and how the DA isn't much better, which, after completely neglecting and doing the opposite of his duty, as I've shown here, I get what they mean. I'm fighting a losing battle. My daughter deserved so much better than this. There was a little girl involved in this, and they are just treating it like some bill to, find loopholes and get around. I worry that this fits the trend in that area and this country in general, where public officials are not being held accountable for their actions. This is something that I believe that the people are becoming very fatigued with, and please help me. Please help me spread this information. Please let me, help me get it seen by as many people as possible. I need all the voices backing me that I can. Hopefully with enough people screaming for justice for Khaleesi, hopefully we can actually get heard. Callie was just an amazing, beautiful little girl. One thing that just always stuck out to me versus other kids is how much she just cared if everybody was happy. If you were around, if you were in this house and you seemed sad, this kid would literally come back to this room right here, this is her playroom, and she would put on a little outfit or a Batgirl outfit, something like that, and she would come out and just stand right in front of you and start singing and dancing until you smiled. The little creatures on my shirt are from the project that her and I started together. We started it back in January of last year, literally just to make people smile. And she loved doing it. We made content and did science projects together and made messes and jumped on the trampoline, all just to make others smile. And it worked. People loved her. My little Callie doll made people all over the world smile. She was a little girl again. It's just really, it's just so hard. Just seeing all this is just very difficult. So please take the time to share and follow and, make some noise, however you can, and hopefully together we can all get some justice for Khaleesi.